Hey everyone, Eric Hayden here on YouTube. Mid-70s today, mid-December, just a really nice day to do a video. And this was inspired by one of the comments I got below. The gentleman asked a question about the difference between Dolly Parton and Claire Lease, so I'm going to talk about that. But they also asked about, hey, I saw your Palatine video last December, almost a year ago to the day, and you did an unboxing. What are the roses doing now? And I said, wow, that's a fantastic idea for a video. So comment below, what do you want to see in the garden? I'll show you those unboxed roses from last year, what they look like a year later. And that inspired me to do some other videos. Not in this one, but later, I'm going to show you maiden roses from 2 years ago and 1 year ago. Those roses that I ordered from Steve Singer at Wisconsin Roses, and I want to show you how well they're doing in the garden. I do have to apologize, it's midwinter, so there's no blooms on the plants. The leaves are kind of half falling off. We've had some hard freezes, but with the warm weather, we're actually getting some bud eyes pushing out because we've been so mild for the really first 2 weeks of December. So, to the question about the unboxing, if you watched the video last year, I'm going to do my best to put a link to it at the very least below, but I'm going to try to put it in the video. We'll see how that goes. I ordered a couple roses from Palatine Roses. One was a Gemini and one was a Moonstone. This is a Gemini now. Again, it's not doing it justice because the leaves have been burned by, a good freeze. These roses tried to go dormant, but again, we've been in the 60s and 70s the last couple days. So that's what Gemini is looking like now. A better comparison would be Moonstone. So when you get these roses, really most mail order places, aside from maybe K&M or own root roses, if you order from Witherspoon or Reagan or Edmonds, most of these are considered 1.5 to 2 year old roses. What that means is they've been budded in the field and grown up for a season or two before they've been shipped. So again, I'll link to the video itself. It comes bare root, the canes are cut down, and the roots are trimmed a little bit. And in the last video, I talked about the reason why I'm in love with Palatine so much is the root system on them are just fantastic. So they tend to jump out of the ground. This is a good example of this. Again, this was planted last year. I potted it up. I probably wouldn't do that again, and the reason for that is I potted up in December and it was kind of a pain bringing it in and out, and my reasoning was I wanted the rose to be in my possession as soon as possible. So Palatine usually harvests them October, November, so I figured if they ship them to me in December, I'll have them instead of sitting in refrigeration for the whole winter. If I had to do it over again, just ship them when you're actually ready to do something with, because it gets old if you have a cold winter bringing them in and out. You might ask, why did I not plant it in the ground? I did that up north in Syracuse because the winters were longer and the rose would actually stay dormant. Here in North Carolina, I've actually lost a couple roses planting them in the ground in the fall. And then I had real issues in the spring with the up and down weather that we get, 70, 80 degrees one day and then a freeze the next night. So I kind of wanted to keep them in pots and baby them until all freezes were over with in the spring. Nonetheless, this is a look at Moonstone. If you refer back to the video, again, it came it's got to have at least 3 healthy, sturdy canes. Most companies only sell grade 1 roses. Palatine is certainly with those. Grade 1, sometimes they'll come even bigger, but you can see that it has multiplied many canes on this. And again, this is after just one growing season. I forget the analogy, sleep, creep, and then jump, or something to that effect. You comment below something about how a lot of bare root roses, in the first year or two, they need to become established, then they'll really jump out of the ground. And I don't know if you can see this for reference though. This is just the first year planting, and this is a pretty substantial cane, pretty big. So that's good for the future. You're gonna have some nice canes coming off of that as well. So bottom line, a year later, I'm trying to find, there's a couple other big ones down in here, but it's just kind of hard to show on here. But these are, compared to my finger, substantial cane size for the first year. So that's what the Gemini and Moonstone look like now. I'll try to show them in the spring when they're blooming and actually looking good. And then by comparison, I'm not sure if I've got the dates quite right, but this is 1 full year in the garden. Well, potted up last December, planted in the spring. So almost a full year in the garden. And this is 2. This one on the right is from Witherspoon. That is Pope John Paul II. So that is, you can tell that, you know, the size will continue to increase until it gets to its mature height, which sometimes can take 2 to 3 growing seasons. So the second question was Claire Elise or Dolly Parton. This is not going to help you make your decision, but I wanted to show you how good a growing rose Dolly Parton is, and so is Claire Elise. This is from Palatine. This is on Multiflora. I'll have to check the dates. It's at least 2 to 3 years old. Real huge canes. Dolly Parton is an orangish red rose. The reason why you would buy Dolly Parton is for fragrance. If you want a huge bloom and a fragrant rose, Dolly Parton is something that you would want to get. And I checked their website today. This is December 16th. They're sold out of a lot of stuff because, again, they're such a good company. But last I checked, they still had Dolly Parton. So, to the gentleman that asked the question, if you want a good growing rose and you're looking for something with fragrance and a huge bloom, you want Dolly Parton. If you want a rose and you don't care about fragrance, but you want a center, and you're going to, and what I mean by that, that spiral pinpoint center, and you're possibly going to be doing some rose shows, you want a nice cut flower that's also an orangish red, and you want a newer rose, you want the new kid on the block, then you want Claire Elise. And this is, this came from K&M Roses. Again, very, very good growing rose. You can see the big canes. And I mentioned we're warm, we're leafing out again, but if you look really carefully, when I was pre-doing this video, you can see my bud eyes are pushing out as well. And I did a video last spring that each bud eye has 3 chances, the terminal one and the 2 dormant side buds. So if that first one gets nipped by a freeze, which is pretty likely since we're mid-December, I'll have 2 other ones, and I can always prune lower on the bush. Back to my point. For the gentleman that asked the question, Claire Elise is the rose you want. If you don't care about fragrance, you want the new kid on the block, and then also you want to consider doing rose shows. It's not that Dolly Parton would never win a queen, it just tends to open pretty quick, and it's more bought for fragrance and a good growing rose. So hopefully those answered the 2 questions. We showed you the Moonstone and the Gemini a year later from the Palatine unboxing. We compared Dolly Parton to Claire Elise. The other tip for you is it might come down to ordering. Dolly Parton is a little more commercially available. It's still on Palatine's website. Last I checked, they still had Gemini and Alina, Payadus. So there's your 3 good roses right now. You could order it today and get it. If you were going to get Claire Elise, you would have to order that from Wisconsin Roses, which is okay. I think Steve does even one rose at a time, but you're gonna pay 10 for shipping, so you may as well, I think you can get up to 6 for that price. Check the website to make sure I'm not misspeaking, or you're gonna have to order it from K&M. Claire Elise is not gonna come on Palatine or Reagan or any of the big wholesalers because it's done by a local hybridizer, John Smith, out of Maryland, so much smaller in commerce. So that's it for today's video. Comment below, what else do you want to see? I was inspired by those comments. The next videos, I'm going to show you some Louisa Estises that have been growing as a maiden rose for a couple years now. Here's a little sneak peek. That's what it looks like. That's what one of Steve's roses will look like in a couple years. Can you tell the difference between that and other ones? No. Here's a couple more maidens we'll talk about. And then maybe I'll just do a garden by garden tour. This is the first garden that was planted spring of 2017. Yeah, it looks like this now. It's big, it's mature. These roses are huge. But where did I start from? Did it start like this? Obviously not. So I will show you how they started, as all of these were grafted on Fortuniana from Mr. James Mills at K&M Roses. And now you can see they are kicking major butt here in the garden, looking really good now that they've been in the ground. I guess going on 5 years is hard. It's hard to believe we've been in this house 5 years as I say this. We had moved down from upstate New York to eastern North Carolina 5 years in winter 2017. So it's coming up for our 5-year anniversary. As always, I appreciate the comments. That's why I did this video. So let me know what you want to see, and I'll last leave you with some pretty Carolina blue skies. 70s today. I would prefer a little snow for Christmas, but if it's not going to snow, it may as well be warm out. Have a good one, and I hope you have a good Christmas here coming up.